they sold a clean version of that album?
Mm-hmm. They sure did.
Was it like half price or something?
Well, I got it as a gift from my older sister for Christmas in 2000, so I'm not sure. Maybe I could ask her.
It's cool of your older sister, though.
Yeah, the reason she bought it clean was I think my mom would have freaked out.
Yeah, I don't blame her. But I'm curious to hear a little more about that. But welcome back. This is the Raised by the 90s podcast. I am Peter Z, here with
Toby Freeze.
How you been this week, Toby?
Not too bad. Kind of crazy week, doing some house stuff and everything like that, and the puppy. So what about you?
Been working on like 3 different media projects, so my brain is just all over the place.
Okay.
So I'm trying to just concentrate and get things done. So crazy week for me as well.
For sure.
But today we're talking about new metal. And I kind of threw a generalization out there last time, but we'll get more into that. First, tell me the full story here, Toby.
Okay, so in Christmas of the year 2000, after Y2K and everything was all brushed off,
yeah,
I had received a Christmas gift from my older sister, and it was a clean version cassette tape of Limp Bizkit's Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water.
And for our folks out there who might not get it, there's just egregious swearing in it. How do they handle that?
In one of the opening tracks, Hot Dog, where he says the F word however many times, I'm pretty sure it's just blanked out. So it's just a lot of silence in between.
Yeah, it's got to be at least 30 or 40 times because I won't repeat the lines, but it's F this, F this, F this is effed up this, So,
yeah.
Well, as I said, I think your sister made the wise decision of doing that. But yeah, that's just a lot of blanks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, parental advisory stickers were a big deal back then. But,
I think it still had the parental advisory sticker on it too, just for the subject matter.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I do want to talk more about Limp Bizkit's subject matter or lyric choice, but
well, the story has another part to it too.
Oh, go on.
After we came back from Christmas break in 6th grade, we were going around the classroom saying what we got for Christmas, and it got to me, and my teacher, was like, "Tell me, what'd you get for Christmas?" And I said, "I got Limp Bizkit's Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water."
Oh man!
And I'm not sure my teacher got the Chocolate Starfish reference. I mean, I didn't know what it was when I was 10 or 11 years old,
Yeah.
But she definitely knew who Limp Bizkit was, and
she wasn't happy.
She called me out for it being a little bit, crass. So
No, I'm embarrassed to admit for how long I just didn't even think about the title, and I'd even heard the term before, but I just never thought about the title of that album. And then I was like, let me put it this way: by the time I figured it out, I was more like, ew, rather than ha 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 ha. I was already way past that.
I was the opposite. I laughed when I found out about it.
Yeah, it went over. I didn't even realize as a kid. But no, that was probably one of my first introductions to it was Limp Bizkit via I took a math class at the middle school, and there was another kid from the other elementary school with me there, and he would talk about Limp Bizkit, and I thought the lyrics were just hilarious. I didn't think they were to be taken seriously at all, but a lot of people really took them as really crass and oh, they're angry and blah. And I'm like, no, I think it's all over the top on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, it was hyped up stuff too, dude. I don't know. I got down to it when I was 10, 11 years old. So.
Oh, totally. No. Okay, so we should back up a little bit. I wanted to get a couple things out of the way up front. Well, first, as an artist, I struggle to be a hater a lot of the time. It's easier to hate on the visual medium because it asks for 2 of my senses rather than 1, but musicians, after trying my hand at it, I gained a lot of respect for everyone else. So I pretty much will never condemn a style or artist completely. I think there's always something there.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that matters in music is I like how it sounds. But don't worry, there's plenty of songs that I don't like how they sound, and I won't be afraid to share that. Also, I am going to be open with the things I used to like and sometimes still like and just don't listen to as often. And I ask that you be honest with yourself too. I'm hoping Toby and I can spark some good memories just by bringing up some bands and songs that you might remember and might take you back to those times when it was popular. Toby, we both share something in common too when it comes to music. How long have you been playing guitar? Rough estimate.
17 years now.
Exact number. There you go.
But, I remember because my dad had bought me Squire Strat from the pawn shop.
Oh, right on, right on.
So when I turned 15, so
nice. Well, since we are the same age, and I started when I was 15 as well, you did the math for me. So, yeah, roughly the same amount of time. So we might not be Eddie Van Halen over here, but I think we both have maybe not black belts, but purple or brown belt guitar level, maybe. I don't know how. I'm trying to be humble, but we're experienced in music. Put it that way. And
another note: a lot of these albums. I mean, not a lot of them, but a lot of the quintessential albums did come out in probably 2000. So we're verging on going a little over 90s territory here, but you can't really talk about these bands without talking about those albums. So who were more, at the height of popularity in the late 90s?
Yeah, well, 3 of the games we discussed, I think last week, came out in the 80s, but were influential in the 90s. And, we could always just cheat and treat it like centuries. This is the 2000th decade. So it's 91 to 2000 instead. How about that? That's my workaround. That's my cheat.
I just watched that Seinfeld episode about the millennium where it's like, Newman, did you book the hotel for the year 2000 or the actual millennium, seeing as how there was no year 0?
Yeah, I always love that. That's such a weird thing. No, and that's... I just binged some South Park this week.
Okay. South Park will fit into this episode a little later.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I was harvesting resources for one of my other projects.
Okay.
But anyways, I listened to a few songs that you shared with me, and I have my own opinions on nu metal as well, and my brain kind of goes to a couple things right away, but we'll save that for later. I was a little checked out from that subculture when it first came out. It was very big in wrestling because, that tough contact sport.
Yeah.
A lot of it I didn't give a fair chance because it projected, even as an 11-year-old, I saw these kids as edgelords. And I knew I was about to wipe the mat with them, and I wasn't tough. So just because they had a Slipknot shirt on did not mean they were tough. So I kind of didn't give it a fair shake until the later part of the decade and or after even. So I think you could tell me a bit more about where did the movement start, whether it's culturally or the musical influences. How would you what's the backbone of it?
Well, I would say Korn is probably going to be the biggest name that you'll hear when it comes to nu metal. I mean, they're pretty much the founders of the subgenre.
Yeah,
if you want to say it, they definitely had influences before.
Nothing's created in a vacuum, but they really solidified it as its own thing.
Yeah, and they're from California, so I think that movement kind of started there and kind of spread out afterward. But I remember the biggest influence on this genre for me was a card shop that we hung out at when we were kids. We first played Pokemon there, but graduated to Magic the Gathering.
Nice.
So it was all me and my brother hung out there when we were 10, 11, 11, 12, and we were hanging out with, 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids.
Oh, that's great. That's such a fun environment.
Oh, yeah. I don't know who allowed us up there, but especially on Friday and Saturday nights. So,
when you were a little kid, like older teenagers were just the coolest people in the world. It was such a joy to hang out with people like that.
Yeah. And I think that those are the dudes who kind of are responsible for.
They show, they showed you, hey, this is what we're into. And you were like, whoa. Yeah, this is sweet. Yeah. And, so I was going to also ask, actually, what do you think the influences on Korn were?
Definitely like Mike Patton.
Okay.
And
I'm totally familiar with him if you didn't catch my resounding agreement there. No, I don't. I don't know.
Who actually denounced Korn, I think, or
really?
nu metal as a genre. But
there's been a lot of people. Nu metal has become a punching bag, and some of it is earned. Like, come on, "Crawling in My Skin" became a meme song for a reason. Like, it's a little over the top, edgy, but a lot of it is still good, and I don't know why it is perceived to have aged so poorly. The stuff I listened to this week, I found some of it still pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem to age very differently than the other rap rock, which is the same thing, where a lot of it did not hold up, and then some of it sounds very modern still.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's too early to get into this, but I felt like there's kind of a through line with Korn, because first of all, the lead vocals like rap singing, because he is singing notes, but it's in this rap rhythmic style. Super cool. And their spacey guitar riffs are just wild. I love them. Like on Freak on a Leash is like a really easy example. I feel some of the groove metal vibes coming through in their choruses and stuff sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was a bit of a fan. I mean, I was just trying to learn all the different guitar I could. I didn't see a big distinction between all the different rock genres. If it had distorted guitar, I was into it. But, I would try and learn Pantera songs, and I see the thing I really like about certain genres is that, chugs, the combination of a kick drum, the bass, and a rhythm guitar hitting all at the same time, synchronized to a cool rhythm. And I feel like groove metal kind of laid the groundwork that the nu metal guys picked up on there. But there's also the huge rap influence. Is Mike Patton a rapper? Can you remind me what was from again?
Faith No More.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, because I know them. Yeah,
and I mean a bunch of other projects, but that's what he's known for sure.
Which is interesting, because I distinctly remember back in, I think we were still on LimeWire at that point. I was looking up funk metal bands, and that name was popping up everywhere, and they didn't resonate a lot with me. They had a couple cool songs, but I mean, that's how a lot of bands are. You like a few of their songs and that's it. But apparently they were influential. That's why they kept popping up. So no, kudos to them. And I see there's a quote here from Korn's lead vocalist, Jonathan Davis, and he says, if there was no Dimebag Darrell, the Pantera lead guitarist, there would be no Korn. So I think that's interesting.
Makes sense.
But what about on the rap side? Is there anyone that comes to mind? I mean, I have a couple that might be obvious, but I'm curious.
Well, I mean, the biggest obvious one is definitely Ice Cube, because he's actually featured on a Korn album.
That's fair. I was gonna say, well, I feel dumb now because that didn't even occur to me. But NWA was a big one that occurred to me, so I guess that's kind of all wrapped up in there. But
yeah. I mean, if we're looking at it honestly, NWA was pretty much just Ice Cube. I'm pretty sure he wrote like 3 of the dude's lyrics on that
Dre
group
doing his thing, right?
Yeah,
like with the beats. Yeah, he'll come up again in this episode. I kind of was wondering 2 things: is where all these suburban and city boys got the urge to rap from. And I thought the obvious influence there was the Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
But I also know that they are going for a much edgier tone and lyrical subject matter than the Beastie Boys. It was more obvious jokes there. There's a lot more black humor or straight up angst and anger in nu metal. Yeah. So I was curious where that came from, or if there some, were they rebelling against something, or was there a cultural pushback like a lot of genres get started?
No, I don't think so. I think it was more inward, to be honest with you.
After I listened, that's kind of the conclusion I came to as well, is this was like a melding of styles that happened somewhat naturally.
Yeah, it wasn't more like Rage Against the Machine, you know, it was more Rage Against Yourself. This music was. When
I listened to all of Hybrid Theory, I did notice that the seeds for the emo movement were certainly already planted at that point, as far as the angst and the hating yourself and all that. Yeah, I'm down with that. I feel you there. Here's something interesting I kind of noted, and maybe this could help us nail things down a little bit. I kind of realized I could omit a few words and describe like 311, Limp Bizkit, and like Linkin Park with the same sentence. So what really separates the nu metal genre? A couple of those songs that you shared with me, I wouldn't say aren't nu metal.
Yeah.
But they were definitely leaning on the edge of just hard rock.
Yeah.
And some of those bands just kind of had some hard rock hits that I liked too. Like I thought I don't know what genre it is, but the Word Up cover by Korn was always cool. It's got this weird rap rock, but not really any scratching or that stuff, you know?
Well, if we're talking about scratching, one thing I did want to point out that I didn't know when I was a kid is that DJ Lethal was in Limp Bizkit, and DJ Lethal is the DJ for House of Pain and Everlast.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
Yeah, I did not know that. So
So he was jumping around. That's him. That's cool.
Yep.
That's pretty sweet. I certainly know a lot less about the rap scene, so that's mostly speculation on my part. I wouldn't have as much knowledge there. When I tried to chart the development of nu metal, I was a bit surprised at how early in the 90s some of it had come out. You know, the first one from Korn was in 1994, which is the same year Green Day released Dookie, which had like a bunch of my favorite songs of theirs on it, you know.
Oh yeah, my dad loved that album. My dad loved Dookie.
Yeah, they had, before they got political and were more cynical, it was good. Yeah. So it's hard for me to wrap my mind around the development. When did like Limp Bizkit and Slipknot come into the picture?
Limp Bizkit had a couple early albums too, but I don't think they got big until like 97, 98. Because I remember, I mean, you know, they were all over TRL on MTV. They blew up. Yeah, they really did. I remember going on AOL and having to wait to load. I forgot what video. I think it was Nookie. Nice. I had to wait to load that video and watch it.
Yeah, and we should talk for a minute about that. Firstly, I think that's my favorite song of theirs, and I didn't know like by the time I had heard their music and was listening to it, that had already been out and I had heard it, but I didn't know it was their breakout hit.
Yeah.
Well, I have positive things and I have one in the back of my mind cynical thing. I just can't get over how the Goo Goo Dolls are releasing songs like Slide, where it's like, do you want to run away and get married? And over here, Limp Bizkit, the subject matter is pretty much like, how did I get into this mess in Nookie?
Yeah.
And he's like, doesn't matter, had sex.
Yeah.
Which is just hilarious to me. Like, it's a total subversion of what I expect. I don't know. It's great. But the other thing I noticed was first when Snoop Dogg showed up, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Can't believe Snoop's in this video. And then I saw Dr. Dre in it too, and I was like, corporate hands made these deals, Yeah.
Yeah.
But so who knows how natural their blow up was. They do have a payola scandal in their history, which is a pretty shameful thing in my opinion, but whatever.
Yeah.
Hustle how you gotta hustle, I guess. They're all more successful musicians than me. What do you think led to them being embraced so much? Because there's a stark contrast between the brand of nu metal that Korn is presenting compared to the over-the-top crass goofiness of Limp Bizkit.
That's a good question. I mean, the fan base did kind of overlap there, but
in what way? Like, explain a little.
I mean, if you like Korn at that time, I'm pretty sure you liked Limp Bizkit too.
Gotcha. But I mean, yeah, it just seemed like a curious thing to me. But I do, and one reason I think I like Nookie is it sounds quite similar to what like a 311 song sounds like to me, where there's a hard rock chorus and some weird shit going on while people rap. And then I was like, okay, dude, I've always been down with this. It's 311's a bit more uplifting and less cynical, but
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I just thought that was really a weird contrast, because by the end of it, when I mentioned earlier, my mind goes right to somewhere else when I think about nu metal, and that is Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park. And I was happy to see on the Wikipedia page that they consider that the peak. And that's the total, as I mentioned before, it's filled with all this emo angst. So how did we go through this? What do you have any guesses as to what propelled things in that direction?
Well, I mean, it kind of always started like that. If you listen to like some of Korn's early stuff, it was definitely, I'm not going to call it emo, but it was definitely more self-hatred and, what's going on here. So
I did pick up some of that. Some of it did seem a bit to have the rap boastfulness to it. Like there is, like in Children of the Corn, he's like, Generation X, all about smoking weed and kinky sex. And I'm like, bro, you heard of hippies and free love, dude? Come on. Like,
yeah.
That's where my edginess detector goes off again. It's like, bro, you're super cool. Like, but it is a cool song, but there is a bit of that rap boastfulness compared to the overall just like very dark lyrical matter of the stuff that came later. Not that it's like overtly dark, but it's emo or whatever you want to call it. So
yeah. I mean, it could have just come down to the individual band members and their experiences. So
I was trying to think that I did wonder if there was some rejection of some type of cultural norm or bigger phenomenon, because they're angry about something, man. And I couldn't pin down what. Everything I thought of felt tainted by my own experience.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't know what it could possibly be, but like,
I think it's just, I'm not going to say authority or anything like that, but I think it's just maybe almost society as a whole, in my eyes.
Is that why there's such a limited overlap in the punk and like hardcore punk and like the hard rock, new metal scenes? And of course,
There could be.
I'm sure we could offend metalheads out there by defining new metal as a metal genre, which I don't really.
Well, I mean, they're already offended at it. They're already offended at it.
Yeah.
I didn't know the extreme hate for new metal from heavy metal fans.
Oh yeah, they even make a dig at it in a Metalocalypse episode, which I thought was a little weird. I was like, dude, you're a musician. You think time period limits when instruments can be used? But to be fair, that episode is hilarious when they bring in session musicians and Nathan is singing like beat poetry over this drummer. It's hilarious. But anyway, that's what I said. It's become a huge punching bag. And I honestly think like Paper Cut by Linkin Park like kicks 1,000 asses. Like it is so awesome in my opinion, like because it has all of the things I like about the genre, which I won't lie, like even the subject matter of the song, like hiding your true self, like come on, like yeah, I get it. I get you, bro. I know that feel, bro. But no, go ahead.
I think that's why it was so big too. That now that you just said that, like I get you. I think it was like there was a mutual thing there where it was like the listeners are like, okay, I get you, but also the people making this music back at the audience is saying, I get you too, you know? So
I do think that's part of it, but let me be clear. That is the 5% compared to the 95% that is the music. Like, I mean, that's almost not fair because whoever edited those vocals is a friggin' genius. They sound so cool, especially like when he says skin and it glitches right before. Oh man, like that is genius. And they did that in 1999. Like, they're making it in 99, I think, and it came out in 2000. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's nuts to me. And it presents the whole picture of where it's got all those musical elements plus like the rap scratches, like in the intro, it has that riser filter sweep noise and it just sounds so explosive. And that's the same thing about Nookie too. Like this verse is so subdued and then it just breaks out into this heavy rock, like new metal chorus. And I really like that contrast and the tasteful use of scratches and stuff and electronic effects, like the synth at the opening of Paper Cut is just banging. Absolutely love it. And do you have I know you said you go straight to Korn. Would you have a defining song that you consider like the new metal anthem?
Yeah, definitely. If we're talking Korn, it's Falling Away From Me.
Okay, no, that's fair.
And and Korn was actually, besides the card shop, my older sister who bought me the Limp Bizkit cassette tape was super into Korn as well. So that was a big
the cassette tape
jumping off point for me for listening to it.
For your Walkman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Limp Bizkit was a cassette tape. Yeah. It was for my Walkman. No. She had issues by Korn on CD though. She listened to it on her boombox. But I also remember the South Park episode with I'm pretty sure it's a Halloween episode with Korn on it.
To solve the Scooby-Doo mystery. Dude, that episode is hilarious. That's one of those like older season forgotten gems where they did something really out there. Yeah. Oh,
and they play Falling Away From Me at the end on that.
Yeah.
So
that's funny.
Yeah.
No, good pull, dude. I never got as much into say Slipknot or
sorry, I was gonna say Slipknot was my like number 2 for sure.
Huh. So I mean, that's clearly how I saw it as far as kids wearing t-shirts, like Korn was the king and Slipknot was like their, the next one in line. So
yeah, Slipknot was definitely more like hardcore.
yeah, that's kind of where I saw some of the differences there, where I was like, this feels a little less representative of nu metal to me. Like it is, but it's not like genre defining.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as much as I like Korn, I would say that Slipknot's first album got more playtime from my brother and I.
Really?
Versus, yeah, as far as like the whole album went, because all the songs on their debut album are just bangers pretty much. So Korn had like, their like one or two hits, and then the rest of the album was kind of just like,
A lot of some filler.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the most recent times I listened to a whole album straight through the other day, and I kind of remembered why I don't listen to albums straight through anymore. I don't know if that says more about me or about albums. So anyways, I was going to say one of the songs you shared with me really took me back because I've been trying to identify that song by Mudvayne that you shared. Dig, because back in high school I was all about guitar. So on lunch break in junior and senior year, when we could go off campus, Adam and I would go to a friend's house and he had a bass, and I remember him teaching me that bass line because we were mystified by slapping and stuff. And that sounds really cool, that song, but it's really not that hard. Like you just hold 2 frets and slap 2 open strings. But I had forgotten the name ages ago, and it like is right at the beginning of the song. So the instant I heard it,
they only say it about 8 times during the chorus.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, this is that song. No, but I remember the lyrics and stuff, and once I heard it, I was like, oh, this is Dig, like of course. But no, so I wanted to thank you for that, and that is another example where I put that on the edge of hard rock, because that's the kind of stuff we would hear on the CDs that they played in the wrestling room in high school, but it's not to say it's not new metal, but it's still like right on the boundary compared to some of the other bands I think we've discussed.
For sure.
It was really weird to me when I did do some reading this morning is apparently Sugar Ray, them, like pop band not pop band completely, but apparently one of their albums, the one that Fly is from, is a new metal album except for that song, which became a hit. And I'm like, what? So I'm gonna go and listen to that sometime because I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Well, they were saying that that Crazy Town song or whatever,
which
Come
one?
My Lady. They were saying that band is new metal, but I'm not so sure about that.
I also was a little confused by that. I was wondering if I was remembering a different band or something. Like what songs are by Crazy Town?
But
it
was just that one hit.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say, and this is one of the few examples where I do see that when I look at their genres, it has rap rock, hip hop, rap metal, because there's just I found such, and I think there's like some background ideological differences that separate like the punks from some of the other rockers and the metalheads. Like those are all different types of things. But it's strange to me that a lot of these bands that had similar sounds, or I liked, well, one aspect, they had chugs, and they fell into a different genre though for some reason, and I didn't understand why. Like the largely ridiculed band Hawthorne Heights, like go listen to the song Dead in the Water. That song fucking owns. Fight me. Like it chugs so hard. But anyways, that's again, I may have shown my hand, but I kind of see a through line, not even with what I just mentioned, but where do you see nu metal's influence in the future of music, like from what we've seen and maybe going forward?
Hmm. That's a good question because I'm not sure. I think the bands that are still out there doing stuff
Mm-hmm.
are kind of just the last part of it. Because I mean,
Their remnants holding on.
yeah, I mean, music has branched out into so many sub genres nowadays that it's like it's hard to tell where influences are coming from.
That's kind of what inspired me to ask the question, what really is nu metal? Because even as someone who can tell you electro versus house versus electro house versus techno versus tech house, I still am baffled sometimes by the way people categorize bands, or whether it's self-categorization maybe that makes it confusing, you know.
You don't listen to brutal deathcore metal, but you got the mathcore, you know.
Well, okay, you kind of said a key thing there. Well, first I was gonna say, like, yes, I am a little turned off. Nu metal avoids this, but certain modern metal genres are just a freaking guitar dick measuring contest, and it's like,
oh yeah,
I have huge respect for technical players, but it's got to be musical too, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's certain like tech death bands that are better than others.
Agreed.
But
no, the other thing is, I actually kind of think that nu metal did leave a mark, and I don't have a lot to back this up. If you heard the last part of our last episode, I make electronic music as well and record guitar music occasionally. So I dabble in those things. And apparently Korn was the one that made very wide detuned doubled guitars popular, which is a minor thing. But I took the time to Google just the phrase nu metal gent, and you know, a lot of people, gent and mathcore are similar, the same. People call it gent, dear listener, if you don't know, because of the sound the guitar makes. Gent. So enough said. And I kind of see a bit of a through line there, because my favorite gent, or like, they're like progressive melodic metal, I guess you might say, but like they have a very, you know, lots of chugs, but also synths. It's very modern sounding in its production, and that's kind of what I feel when I listen to Hybrid Theory. Is I was like, this still sounds modern today. And that's kind of where I see the through line, is in those mathcore, the not as much speed or grindcore genres, the more slowed down groove genres of metal and rock. So I don't know. Could be wrong.
So just that production aspect.
But that's just my thoughts on it. I have I'm not educated enough to know about the beginning of it, but that's kind of where I saw its influence later on down the line.
Gotcha.
One thing I noticed, most songs, for being a rock or metal genre, are missing something.
That is?
You don't have a guess?
Guitar solos?
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that just today. I was like, because I was like, oh, we should talk about some sick guitar. Wait, there are no guitar solos. Like, I couldn't think of one that's not either just like another cover of the melodic vocal line, or just doesn't have one. So I was like,
yep.
I thought that was a little weird, and you know, maybe those. Well, that's not fair. Plenty of those guitarists probably have the skills for it, but it was a stylistic choice, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was just the whole part of the genre,
leaning towards the rap direction of it.
Yeah, just guitar riffs and the vocals, pretty much. So.
Yeah, and I really do like that style of guitar riff where it just is explosive like that. I can't emphasize that enough. Yeah, even though I didn't listen to as much Slipknot, I did know I got like kind of a crash course on some of the evolution here, because when I listened to their older stuff, I definitely heard where other bands kind of got some of their stuff, like the really fast yelling. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so like System of a Down.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, did you listen to them a lot?
Yeah, I'd say next to Slipknot, System of a Down was like my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when Toxicity came out, that was
that
again
was
probably
huge.
the year 2001, maybe.
That was a huge hit. Yeah,
but if we're talking about kind of your see-throughs, I think System of a Down definitely was more that new metal band that kind of crossed genre over into the punk or the Rage Against the Machine territory.
Yeah. No, they have a fantastic drummer. Let me tell you that. I really like their drummer. But other than that, yeah, they have a very eclectic style, but it is I do see the new metal influence on it for sure.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
were a big fan of them?
Oh yeah, huge fan. I think our whole school, I remember our whole school was, because when Chop Suey came out, you know, that was the shit right there.
Yeah. Yeah. There is I remember a kid asking me, he was wearing a System of a Down t-shirt, and I had just heard that through a friend, and he was like pointing at one of the dudes on the shirt, and he was like, I think this guy's a poser, though. What do you think? And I was like, dude, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean a poser? How is he a poser?
That's a weird statement.
He was a weird kid. He was like a nerd. We were in like the accelerated math shit together, and then he went punk or whatever you want to call it. Like that I don't know how else to describe it, but yeah. So he just was begging for an excuse to hate on someone, I think.
Gotcha.
But it was just a weird thing to say. Yeah. What else about System of a Down, man? I think that, yeah, they definitely made a big splash. I kind of almost had forgot about them.
Yeah. Well, I think their songwriting skills were, I think, a lot better than most of the new metal bands that were out there.
I agree.
Like, I mean, yeah, they can write songs, but System of a Down definitely had more structure, more musical aspects, you know.
And that's one thing I wanted to comment on, is as I got further in the decade, I noticed songs with bridges and longer transitions and more thought out sections, and I think that really helped develop it. And I think you're absolutely right, because I mean, I make electronic music. I don't really listen to a lot of vocal music, but the vocals in, for instance, what is it, BYOB, are definitely striking, and the words in a couple of their other songs, the sections where he goes from, I don't even know what to call it, rapping, yelling extremely fast into like
that rapid fire
into actually good singing slow, then is like such a cool contrast. They had a good thing going on.
Yeah, definitely. And they don't get much love for their album before Toxicity. I mean, they do with the actual with like the fans, but
people have looked back. Yeah, they had some okay
like
ones
that.
on there
That Sugar song. I remember listening to that walking home on the way from like 5th grade, I think.
Yeah.
No one checked what music I was listening to when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, I had a different experience, but I think my parents were mostly right as far as like early 90s. I remember my brother putting together like a best of late 80s, early 90s tape. A tape again. But and I was just like, man, this I don't like this very much. So I didn't feel like I missed out that much. But as I got into middle school and high school, I started branching out. I never had control of the radio. So I did not really get a chance unless I was like with someone who was going to expose me to this music that normally I wouldn't get a chance to listen to. So
gotcha.
But looking back, I see where I see where a lot of the influence on the other bands that I was listening to overlapped and came from. So I remember the first time I think I was, I had certainly been exposed to it, but the first time I think I had an open mind towards it was seeing on TRL. And I don't care much for music videos. I just wanted to get straight to the music. And unless it's a creative venture in itself or a good representation of the band playing, I don't really care about your music video. If you try and do some wacky artsy stuff and combine it with the band, it's like, no, fuck off. Do one or the other. I saw their video for One Step Closer, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty rad. And I was like, kind of in denial with myself that it was pretty cool. And like, I remember being like, no, I'm not really into that. And people are like, I need a little company. And I'm like, it's Room to Breathe, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need company. He's saying, leave me the fuck alone. Like, get with it. I'm like, and yeah, I don't like that, by the way. No, not defensive at all. No. Yeah, totally hypocritical, but I was fucking 12, whatever. Yeah, so that was, that again was past the 90s, but it gave me the ability to be like, huh. And I kind of looked back with an open mind and a working Napster, and found a bunch of cool new music. And not to the same degree as you ever did, I think, but not getting to experience it during its heyday, perhaps, except maybe the end of it. But I think it's unfair that it became a punching bag in the metal community. I don't think a lot of these guys ever saw themselves as metalheads.
Yeah, they were just doing their own thing.
Yeah, they were doing their own thing, and the metal community has their whole sacred cow, and everyone will define things differently. So it is almost pointless to try and pin it down, but it is fun to see who influences who and such. Yeah. Overall, like I said, I hope just anyone listening takes a moment to maybe listen to some of these songs or bands again. You might be surprised. You might think, oh, I outgrew that. But be like, nah, this is pretty cool. You might surprise yourself. I certainly did. And you did with your picks. So,
yeah, I still listen to Slipknot's first album to this day.
Yeah. No, there's plenty of good hits out there in the new metal genre. It's good stuff. Like, yeah, some of it hasn't aged the best. It certainly has its like shortcomings when it tried to be a little too edgy, and that it kind of was just too. It wore the times on its sleeve a little bit too much, I think.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I was gonna say. It definitely encircled and encompassed just that late 90s, early 2000s, just society,
Yeah, that's kind of what I think about. There was a lot of anger and rejection in it, even if it wasn't a straight up rejection of something. I think it's just rejection of society or like cities and suburbia, wherever these kids grew up, shit like that.
It was like a different kind of rebellion.
Yeah,
it wasn't just like straight up fuck you authority. It was just like, I hate myself more than I hate you.
I don't think I finished that thought. That's where like the punk line differs between like the anti-authority versus the like nihilistic view of new metal and some of their stuff, or amoral view, which I can't necessarily applaud, but I won't judge them. They're just recording a song. So I think that wraps it up for me. I have to say my overall story of new metal is not giving it a fair shake and finding out it was cooler than I thought and being in denial and then coming around to acceptance. And now I'm here holding up the pillar of new metal saying it's still good amongst the haters.
That's a whole character arc right there, Peter.
It is. That's what I'm saying. There's my new metal redemption. Yeah. No, if people were saying new gent is going to be a thing, but those posts were a couple of years old. So I don't know if I should bust out the EMG pickups, start getting my gent on. No, I think we successfully avoided any technical jargon or dissecting sections of songs, which is good.
Yeah.
Do you have any other bands, songs, things going on in the world?
No, not really. I mean, there was a couple one-hit wonders out there.
What were some big ones?
I mean, Bodies by Drowning Pool for sure.
Oh, yeah, they didn't have much else. Yeah, but that's a classic. Like, if you never heard Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, you might have missed out on this part of the decade.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's a multitude of other new metal bands out there that we didn't touch on, but I mean, I didn't really listen to them when I was a kid,
Yeah, on the Wikipedia page, I certainly saw a lot of bands I was less familiar with, and a little surprised to see some of the bands cited as influences. But as I was saying with genres, everyone has in their own mind what a genre really is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we kind of covered the basics and the big ones.
Yeah.
As far as the heyday of the new metal movement.
For sure.
Because, I think I had already moved on to, for a while I was into hardcore punk and that type of stuff. And that's where that's kind of what took over for heavy guitar music for me until electronic music came along and totally removed metal from all football commercials and is now dubstep instead because it's way heavier. But anyways, so yeah, that's kind of the decline, and I didn't keep up too much with that. That's for Evanescence and Stained. I don't know. Yeah,
man. that was definitely the fall of it.
and some of the other bands that came out and started doing metalcore, they kind of carried the spiritual torch, I think, in a way. But it was definitely a different genre before things came back around to allowing rap elements and things like that in their rock music.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say that wraps it up for our discussion of new metal. I've been your host, Peter Z, here with
Toby Freeze.
Toby, what's up next week?
Oh, we're getting into a goodie.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you like it. 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yep. We are, instead of a jump, we're sticking close to the end of the decade. This one came out in 1999, and it's just, I find it hilarious. And it was a breakout role for a couple actors. And there's just a lot of fun stuff to talk about, and I think it'll be a joy to rewatch and discuss.
I agree.
So if you want to hear us talk about 10 Things I Hate About You, be sure to check in with us next Tuesday. Until then, please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on Apple Podcasts, and check us out on Twitter at RaisedByThe90s. Thanks for listening.
See ya.